education coordinator at the Boys and Girls Club in Napanee. And I'm the head of Indiana Kids here. And since I'm the education coordinator, I'm also over art, but we don't currently have an art coordinator. So the only art we're really doing is when we're able to have it in our various club pods. So with my crew, I've been trying to add art where I can, whether it's like art projects where we're building things out of various materials, or we're learning how to draw certain things, or, you know, little things like that. It's not like huge projects.
No, that's great. I appreciate that. What about you, Kelsey?
Hi, I'm the education director at the Lily Club in Indianapolis. We used to have an art coordinator, but when all of the schools switched to virtual, our staff was a college student, so she had to go back to her hometown to do that. So I'm not really all that much of an expertise with the arts or the music. I appreciate the arts and the music. But yeah, like Christy, kind of incorporating hands-on kind of activities, and like a little mingling of the academics with the arts. Like on National Pizza Day, we made some fraction pizzas, and they like cut out like cardboard for the crust and like all the toppings and stuff.
Finding ways to be creative. I love it. What about Alex?
Hi, I'm Alex. I am the art instructor at the Valparaiso Club. I'm not like the education coordinator, but sometimes I help with that.
Perfect. No, it's always neat to see that some, play the role of everything. Some sites have education coordinators directly. What about you, April?
Yeah, so I'm with the South Bend Boys and Girls Club, and we sort of have a team of people that kind of switch off and do everything. So some weeks we do STEM, some weeks we do art, some weeks we do literacy. So we all actually sort of pitch in and help with the various projects. It's a really great team.
Fantastic. Teamwork, right? What about you, Laura?
I'm with the South Bend Boys and Girls Club with April, and she's right. We work with STEM, STEAM, and STREAM. The only difference is that they include reading and art. So we make sure that all of our sciences and technologies include reading and art. And we do that as a group and as a team.
So intentional planning for the music and the arts. And then we have Peyton.
Hi, I am the Academic Success Director at the Boys and Girls Club of Bloomington. I just started in November, but I am the head of Indiana Kids, so I'm in charge of programming during Power Hour, which is our Indiana Kids Hour. And right now, we aren't really including art in that. Sometimes it's thrown in to different activities, but it's not really a main focus that we are tracking. And I would like to start doing that. So
Yeah. Well, I think you're in the right place today because, if you've been with me before, you've heard me say so many times that Indiana Kids is so much more than just homework, and you've got to take it outside of just the homework room or education in general. And if you really think about it, art is a good way to express social emotional learning, or to incorporate pizza day. And, it's a math project, but it's also an art project. So I think when we find ways to get creative and add art to our education, it becomes a lot easier than thinking, oh, we have to do this big art project. So I think I'm excited that you're here today, and I'm sure Emily will provide us with amazing resources to help us feel a little more guided in the arts and education. Emily, can you introduce yourself, please?
So my name is Emily Seiler,
Oh,
and I live
Emily.
down here in Southern Indiana. Oh, yes.
Let's
yes.
wait just a minute for you. Sorry, I should have been a lot clearer and said Emily Kaiser.
Yeah, my name's
Hey,
also Emily.
Oh, there you are. I see you.
So I just recently switched roles at the Boys and Girls Club into the education coordinator. So I'm still learning all about Indiana Kids, and we don't really have a arts coordinator right now. So just hoping to find some ideas on how to incorporate that without a head person,
And remind us what club you're at, Emily?
The Middlebury Club.
Perfect. And then Laura,
Yes.
your background is keeping me nice and warm. Your fire is much needed today, but
Oh, thank you.
can you introduce yourself quickly and let us know who you are?
Well, you already talked to me. I'm from the South Bend.
Oh, that's right. You're just moving around on my screen, so it's confusing me. So that leaves Amy.
Hello, I'm Amy. I'm with the Boys and Girls Club in Evansville. I'm the cultural and educational director. We're actually kind of fortunate right now because we have a University of Evansville intern who's in the arts. And so she's been working with us, providing different art ideas and crafts. And then also we've been focusing this month on Black History Month. So we've been doing a lot of art with the Black History Month theme. Kids are really enjoying it. And in fact, if you go to our webpage, you'll see that you can vote for your favorite bulletin board and door. Each pod got to create their own work of art. They had 2 weeks that had to do with the theme. So we do quite a bit with art, but we tend to lag in the music department. And we're all just trying to survive. We're a little short staffed, so we do the best that we can.
I think that's become the common theme for 2020 and leading in, we're just, I heard it worded the other day where it's just time to have those tough conversations, right? And I mean, it is what it is, and how do we keep doing the best we can with the situation that is before us? So Emily Seiler, I am now going to turn it over to you, allow you to introduce yourself, and then you can take it over from here. Thank you for being here with us. I am so excited.
I'm very excited to be here. And I first want to say thank you to everybody that's on the call for what you do and working with the kids, especially with what we're experiencing now. Our kids need us more than ever. They need those outside influences from the club. So thank you very much. So my name is Emily Seiler, and I live in Southern Indiana here in Crawford County. So I am way down right next to the Ohio River. It's right down the road here. And my background is in Boys and Girls Club. I've been a rec assistant and a supervisor and a DO, and I'm a huge supporter of Boys and Girls Club and Indiana Kids, and actually was an Indiana Kids supervisor for a couple years, I think. So I am a big fan of the Indiana Kids program and how it helps the kids with their homework, but also finding creative ways to integrate other things. So right now what I'm doing is I teach, I volunteer teach at the local elementary school, K through 5th. And the way that my schedule is kind of similar to after school in a way, because I have very short amount of time. I see 7 different classes in one day, every student in the whole school in one day, and they're only for 35 minutes. And that's including lining up and getting supplies out and all of that. That's a very short amount of program time. But with the pandemic and having to wash everything down in between, that is how it is right now. So, so every Tuesday I see all the kids in the building for art, and every Thursday I see all the kids in the building for music. So I try to pre-plan what I'm going to do a few weeks out, and then a couple days leading up, making sure that I pre-plan my supplies. So we're gonna jump right into it. So that's a little bit about me and what I do every week, and I love it. I love these kids so much, it means a lot to me. So let me see if I can figure out how to get my next slide. So just be patient with me. So there's the little about me screen. I just dove right in. And the next screen. Okay, so I love acronyms. I'm like a total nerd on acronyms. And the acronym that I came up with that I think we need to all remember is that we are all talented. So some of you guys have a background maybe in art or music. Some of you don't. We're all talented. Somebody on this call can dance. Somebody on this call can paint. Somebody on this call can do something creative. That's what we tell our kids. So we have to remember that we can do that ourselves. And I try to remember that on the days that I don't know if I could get through the day. It's like, okay, I'm here for them. I'm creative and they're creative. So we're just going to go dive right into the letters. So the first letter of talent is T. And I know this is more my personality. It's not everybody's, but time and planning. You've got to prep and you've got to plan. And look, I've been there. I've done after school. I know that a lot of times you're doing the lesson that day. You're planning what you're going to do that day or the day before, and then life gets in the way. But the one thing I've learned about, especially having to be in front of these kids every week, is that if I don't take some time the night before or a couple days before to plan and prep my supplies and what we're going to talk about, at least something loosely, then I'm that's not good for the program. It's not good for the quality. So as long as you remember that taking the time to prep and plan something of what you want to do is going to lead to a better quality, and they're going to have more fun. So for all of you who may not like to do that, you'll get there. The A in talent is attitude and positivity. We have got to bring that positive attitude and that energy. So, some days I have long days. In the morning, I'm just like, maybe I was up all night with my toddler. When I go in that morning, I've got some coffee. I am going to throw a little bit of extra energy in, because I noticed that the kids, they're in school all day, right? My kids, the only time that they are not wearing, they got the mask on, and then they're worried about being in line and everything being just so, when they come to my room, they're about ready just to bounce off the walls. So it's actually very similar to after school, because I remember those days. They'd get out of school and come in and bounce off the walls. And they do that in my room. So I have to engage them with my personality and my positive attitude. We're going to have fun today. I start asking them questions, and I don't have a lot of time, so I have to kind of move fast. But that positive attitude, it just kind of warms up the room and gets everybody excited. So just remember to put on that happy face, but don't be fake, because then they pick up on when you're fake too. So the L is learning about your kids. And this is really one of the first things that is important to do early on. Okay, so you already know your kids you're working with. Most of you have relationships built up, right? Figure out what they like to do with music. Some of you guys probably have kids that know how to dance, or they like to sing, or they play an instrument already. So I take notes. The first 2 weeks of school, I had this notebook, and if a kid said, "Oh, well, I play a guitar, Miss Emily," I'd write down so-and-so plays the guitar, because I need to remember where are we starting from? We need to have a starting point, and figure out who likes to paint, who likes to work with their hands. Some of my kids who are more behaviorally challenged, they need to build something. They need to have something to sit down and work on. So take the time to learn about what their strengths are, what their challenges are, and what kinds of mediums do they want to do. Like, for example, for 5th grade, sometimes I might have this great idea that I think's great, that they're all going to sit down and paint. And I have one kid that's just like, I hate painting. And then I'm like, oh no. And that disrupts the whole class. So if you know what they like and what they don't like early on, you can kind of cater a little bit, and you have a little bit more one-on-one time with them after school. Whereas I'm trying to keep everybody on the same page for 30 straight minutes. So learning about your kids will go a long way, and then they will be like, hey, this person appreciates me. They want to hear me and what I like, and it will keep them more engaged. All right, so education is our E. And I'm going to break it down into 3 things that I think are important about education with your academics, with art and music. The first one is making connections. Now, this may come more naturally to some folks than others. I thought about that. I was like, well, to me, it comes naturally, but it may not come naturally to everybody. So maybe even practice. But this is something that I try to do in all my lessons. So the big one is, let's see, I wrote, who was it that National Pizza Day? Kelsey. Great idea. That's actually on my list of things to do, is to look up the national holidays. Making connections, okay? It's Thanksgiving, so talk about the history of Thanksgiving. Find a way to connect Thanksgiving to art. I have an example of that later on, where I did the little feathers on the turkey are the different colors of the rainbow. Another example is, I think I have in this another slide, is rainbows. My kindergartners love rainbows. That's all they want to talk about are rainbows. So I just let them go with it. And I say, okay, let's review the primary colors, the secondary colors. Oh, let's look outside. Is it raining? Let's talk about the science of a rainbow. Maybe I have a YouTube rainbow video queued up to show them. So right there, rainbow, we've connected art, we've connected science. Maybe there's a rainbow song or poem that you can queue up. To me, it comes naturally. And I think it does to all of us. We just have to find that within ourselves. But connecting the art and the music and the different in science and math, if you just kind of remember that, it'll start flowing for you. The second thing is keeping it simple. I'm guilty of this. I have this big idea. We're going to do this big project. We start working on it. We run out of time. I bit off more than I could chew. We ran out of time. I forgot that kindergartners are not good at gluing, and we should not glue. We should not glue in 30 minutes with 25 kindergartners, so keep it simple, don't be too technical. Don't pick projects that have too many steps. And when you do the L in talent with the learn, and you learn what they're capable of and not, you get better at that. So we don't use liquid glue in kindergarten right now because I don't have time. So I'm just being honest, right? So, it's like painting. Be prepared for, if you're going to paint, have it laid out. What step can we eliminate? Do we just tell them to throw their own stuff away? Do I come around and throw it away? Logistics. Okay, next thing in education is age appropriate. This is where you're going to pull in your other people that you work with. So some of you guys do just the art or the music, and then some of you guys may work with other people in the club that do the education, or you guys work with teachers, or you have parents that come to you and talk to you about their kids and what they're learning and their homework. Figure out what that kid's skill level is, what grade are they in, what kind of math are they doing. I'm not a professional teacher, okay? I don't have a degree in education, so I'm sometimes bad about forgetting that certain grades are at certain levels, okay? I forget that kindergarten, they're still doing simple math, and then I'm saying, hey, what's 5 times 5 or 5 plus 5? And they're like, huh? So just kind of review over what level your kids are in school and what their skill levels are so that you can tie that in. One of the things I do a lot with kindergartners that they love is if they are gluing something with a glue stick and they're holding something down, while we're holding it down, we count to 10, okay? Or if I'm doing that with the second grader, maybe we'll count by 5s to 100. So if you remember what that skill level is with their math or their alphabet, then you make sure that you're doing things that are age appropriate so that they don't get frustrated and you don't get frustrated as well. Okay, so moving on to the next letter is N. So this is my favorite letter, and it may be some people's demise, is taking notes. Okay, if you don't like to take notes, maybe find a way that you might enjoy it. Maybe write down in a notebook, or maybe you like to take notes on your phone or on your laptop and make a document. But taking notes will get you a long way. I broke this down into 3 areas that I think you should document on some level that will help you. The first thing is remembering your kids' names. Now, you guys probably don't struggle with that like I do, but for the first month, I was learning 200 kids, and I didn't memorize everybody's names in the first week or 2. So I think I've got almost everybody's name memorized now. But having their names and maybe writing a note, okay, what was something that they said they liked to do? What was instrument that they played? Maybe write down your kids that might have more behavioral challenges. One thing that I learned is I'd have quite a few boys. I've got runners that come to me which is really hard because I've got 20 kids in the room. And if the aid's not there yet, or an aid's not going to be there that day, I may have a kid who's going to run out of the room. So I try to learn what they like. I know that a couple of those boys love the color red. I hand them the red rhythm sticks and they are happy. I know not to give them the yellow ones. So those colors and those things that make them happy, write those down if you need to remember it. The second thing is take notes on your inventory. And we're going to do a whole slide on budget and supplies. But so I'm a little blessed, I will say, and some of you guys probably already have some supplies in your club. You have an area, a cabinet. I do have a room. I'm in the multi-purpose room, and my principal said, go in there, see what is in there, and use whatever you want. So like, whew, okay. There's not a lot of fancy stuff in there, but I have the basics. I have paper, construction paper, all kinds of things to color with and draw and paint, those basic things. I went in there and wrote everything down and went through the cabinets and found all kinds of odd little things like Q-tips and paper cups. And I wrote everything kind of down into categories. And I started saying to myself, what can we do with this? What can we do with that? So, being aware of what you have, you might have something in there that you didn't know you had in the back of that cabinet, because I've cleaned out a lot of BGC cabinets and closets. And sometimes it just takes a matter of taking the time to go through everything, because you might have something in there that you can do something cool with. And the third thing is under notes is calendars and holidays and what the school's doing. So one example I said was Thanksgiving, or Martin Luther King Jr., fourth and fifth grade focused a whole week on that and on African-American leaders. I was pumped. I was like, this is great. I got to work with some of them helping sub and brought some of that kind of into our class. So being aware of what's currently going on in the classroom and making a note of it. And also that the national days are really fun. And then that kind of helps you prep yourself. You can write down, okay, this is coming up. We can focus on that. And it gives you guidance on what you may want to do in your art and music. Okay, and T is teachable moments. So the first one is have fun with it. Don't take it too seriously, or it just shows that you're frustrated and then they get frustrated. So I make fun of myself a lot when I'm with them. So if I make a mistake, I just have roll with it. Connecting ideas, which I talked about, the rainbows is a great example. Rainbows is science, it's weather, it's the color wheel. And also I really throw that in my teachable moment of accepting all of us for who we are. We're all a different color of the rainbow, we're all unique. And then the third thing is songs, rhymes, and raps. Okay, and this is something that will bring in your math and bring in your literacy. But my kids respond really well to songs, rhymes, and raps. You could make them up yourself. You could let them make them up. You could find them on YouTube. But learning colors through songs or music or rhymes, any of that, you're doing music and they're having fun with it. So like the first week of school, all these kindergartners were staring at me and I got stuck. And I was like trying to figure out, do my kindergartners know their primary colors? And what I found out at my school, which is kind of disheartening, is a lot of my kids didn't know any of this, the basic stuff. So I'm actually starting with primary colors for kindergarten, first grade, and second grade for secondary colors. So we're starting from the very basics. And I was sitting there and they're all staring at me and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to entertain them. And I started singing the song. I said, red, yellow, blue, how are you? And to this day, when they come in the classroom, if we start talking about red, yellow, blue, they all echo back to me, how are you? And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm about ready to cry. It's so cute. So find those little melodies. And like I said, if you want to make them up or let them make them up, because then they'll remember them, or look them up. But the smaller kids love songs, and that really helps. Okay, so Kelsey is going to love this because I have a whole slide talking about using national days. So did you know that April 5th, Kelsey, is International Soup Day? So I use national days sometimes. I love it. It helps give me a spark of an idea. And what I did is let me move sorry, I'm moving things around so I can see my notes. I made kind of like a quick little how things connect. Okay. So International Soup Day, you look it up. And then if you know anything about art or Andy Warhol, or maybe you're a little familiar with it, then you say, oh, okay, Andy Warhol, let's talk about pop art. We've just been spending the last 2 weeks talking about pop art. Talk about pop art. Well, what's he most famous for? Soup cans is something, or Marilyn Monroe, of course. But if you talk about soup cans, then you could take a poll of all the kids in your club or your group and find out whose favorite everybody's soup is. Is it tomato soup, chicken noodle soup? And you could make a bar graph. And there you're starting to bring in math and bar graphs. You could talk about how soup is made. Maybe you could find a video on YouTube and find the science behind soup. You could also talk about life skills. So some of those kids at home may need to have soup when they're at home trying to feed themselves. Talk about, the cans that pop open, okay? So I took something like International Soup Day, connected it to art. You talk about the history and geography, of course, of where Andy Warhol was born, who he was, what was life like in the 60s and 70s and 70s and 80s when he was making art. And you can kind of connect everything. And so that's kind of where I'm going with this, is that you can take one idea and start kind of weaving it into everything with science and math and life skills. Okay. Sorry. All right, budget and supplies. Okay, and I put some examples of some things we've been doing this year, and I'm a little sad because I actually haven't been able to be in school as much as I wanted to be because we've had so many weeks out. So I'll be all ready for a couple weeks, and then they'll say, oh, we have to shut down because we have too many people sick in the county, and that's happened a lot. So I've only probably been there 75% to 60% of the time that I've wanted to be there. But here are some examples of some things that we're doing. I've got my little aluminum foil guy here. This was probably the cheapest thing that we did, okay? And they loved it. It was Giacometti, I'm probably butchering the artist's name right now, but Giacometti, he was a sculpture artist, and he would make these figurines and these sculptures, and they were long and thin. I showed the kids examples of his work and talked about him and said, let's make our own. And I gave them aluminum foil, and they came up with these adorable figurines with aluminum foil. And oh my gosh, that was probably one of our most famous ones that they loved. I mean, let's see, that was 2nd through 5th grade. Okay, so my 1st graders that wasn't something for their motor skills that they could really grapple with yet, but 2nd through 5th grade really took off with this. The second one is pipe cleaners and construction paper and glue sticks, not liquid glue. I think this might have been the one where I thought this isn't going to work. These are Kandinsky flowers. Okay, so with Kandinsky, I talked about the artist. We talked about the rainbow. We reviewed primary and secondary colors, and the only supplies we needed were pipe cleaners and construction paper. And the kids loved this. And we did it when school first started, but you could do it in the spring, and you could incorporate STEM and talk about flowers growing and the whole science of it. So there again, connecting it to STEM, because I also have to find ways to connect STEM into my lessons with the art and the music. And then the third one is we talked about symmetry. So they all got to write their name on these pieces of paper and then fill them in and like make a pattern. So symmetry and pattern, art principles, and all they needed was a pencil and paper. And they loved these because they were their own. They had their own name on them. And I taught them how to write their name on it and fold it up. And then they get to take them home with them. Second row down are homemade instruments, wildly popular. And I'm sure you guys have done homemade instruments. Maybe you haven't. If you haven't, don't be afraid of it. A lot of my kiddos, they ate this up. They spent 3 weeks on it. Because remember, I only have like a half an hour. So we spent the first class talking about instruments, the different instrument families. Okay. So with music, I think the thing with music is kind of overwhelming because you think you have to like teach them how to like compose a song or something, or you have to like do like a whole like symphony. You don't have to do that. And I kind of went in there gung ho. I have a background in music and art. I have a degree in art, and I was going to minor in music. So I have a background in all of those things. And I wanted, part of my pipe dream was let's do all these grand things. And what I realized is that a lot of my kiddos didn't even know what a music note was. They did not know a music note. I think in the school right now, half of them are actually memorizing them now. That's my goal, is that they all know what they are by the end of the year. But at the beginning, I probably only had a handful of kids that knew any notes. So I started with instruments. I started with, let's learn the instrument families. Let's make our own. And then they had to tell me what is their instrument and what family is it in. And it was super cheap because it's all recyclables. So I'm a huge fan of recycling, and I don't know, it maybe depend on what your club does, what your school does, or what your community is into with that. But I saved all of my all the recyclables myself for 9 months, but also asked teachers and other people and said, give me your soup cans, your boxes, paper towel holders. Tissue boxes are popular because all the kids want to make a guitar out of those. But making your own instrument was definitely art, music, and STEM. And we did it over a couple of lessons because sometimes when I have a big project like that, instead of trying to cram it into a short amount of time, I think, Emily, you're hurting the quality. Don't cram it in. So I said, kids, you guys want to spend some couple weeks on this and make your own instrument. And we did this 2nd through 5th grade. 2nd through 5th grade made their own instruments. And it was wildly popular. The next one over is pop art. Romero Brito. This is an example of, you can get printouts of things, and I have a resource for that. That I'll talk about on my resource list. I found this printout. It was black and white. It was an example of what a famous artist does. I showed them the real artwork on the smartboard. We talked about it, and then we did it. And all we needed were crayons or colored pencils or markers and paper. The next one over is one of my favorites. I'm really learning how talented these kids are. If you can see the yellow figurine holding up the earth, like, this stuff makes my heart melt. But this is an example of a famous artist, Keith Haring. So a teachable moment, Keith Haring is a famous artist who isn't just famous for making things bright and vivid and making these fun figurines, which is what kids see. Is I talked about that art should be an expression of yourself, how you feel about things. And if things aren't going right in the world, which is what Keith Haring focused on in the 80s, he focused on homelessness, bullying, poverty, depression, suicide, all of those things, that I took that as an opportunity to talk about why the artist did what he did, and that they can do that themselves. And I saw some light bulbs go off, really connecting some emotion. So it doesn't have to just be technical, like this artist does this stuff, and you actually kind of bring some emotion into it. And then the next example is my turkey rainbow, which I'm really excited. I get easily excited by simple things, but he's cute. The kindergartners loved it. It's simple. It's cheap. I had hundreds of Google eyes and construction paper and glue. All right, now, so we talked a lot about art. So I'm going to take this opportunity to show, if you guys can see the bottom box, I've got these things called boom whackers. Does anybody know what a boom whacker is? I was going to see if I could get a show of hands. Boom whackers. Okay. So when I started this school year and I realized how basic my kids were in their music and arts and what their need was, I had to think of ways that they could learn music that were simple, and that we're also COVID friendly. So like recorders, that was not going to happen. I mean, having kids' mouths on things, I mean, I was like, okay, that's not going to work. So I found this company called Boom Whackers. They're in Texas. It's all made in the USA. I bought a set of Boom Whackers. It's technically for like a class size of 25. And it was about $135. Now I know for some clubs that's a lot of money, but I will say I haven't asked for hardly any money. I've used the supplies that I've had, like aluminum foil and paper and basic stuff and recycling. And I have gone to my principal and said, can I have $100 to buy Boom Whackers? And can I have $50 to buy 2 sets of rhythm sticks? And they're like, of course, So I try to save my money for things that I know are really going to work and figure out what do my kids really need? Because like with budget and supplies, and I think I put this on my list, be realistic. It's easy to like go searching, like, because I used to do this, like after school cool kits, and things. And then you see these big ticket items, and then you might blow a few $100s on this really cool thing that's out, and you may not even use it. So that's between you and your supervisors and your club and your budget. But for me, I found it easier to use what I have and what the kids wanted to do, which was build and color and paint, and spend the money on the Boom Whackers, and we bought rhythm sticks. And the rhythm sticks, I don't know if you've seen them. Rhythm sticks are just little colored sticks and they beat them together. My kindergartners are eating up those rhythm sticks. They love them. They want to come in. All they want to do is, well, don't let them go too crazy. It'll make you nuts. But, I found these YouTube videos that play the music note melodies and they follow them. I don't have to do it. I mean, I could do it, but I don't have a master's in music education. So don't need to do that. I can just go to YouTube, pull up the video. And now my kindergartners know what a whole note, a half note, a quarter note, an eighth note is. And I've only been doing it for 2 weeks and they already have their notes memorized. I'm like, oh, thank you, YouTube. So, so for things like music, think about simple tools. And that's where my best money has been spent, is the rhythm sticks and the Boom Whackers. Now the Boom Whackers, I'll explain what those are. As you see, they're all different sizes and they're all color coded. So if anybody's familiar with the Blue Man Group, what I did was I showed all the kids the Blue Man Group performing at the beginning of the school to kind of see how they responded, because I thought if they don't like this, then we probably shouldn't do this. And they were all like, this is awesome. Oh my gosh. And I was like, well, would you guys want to play your own like PVC pipes, Because at first I thought maybe we could have somebody in the community make them. And I thought, oh, that's going to be a hassle. And for $130, it was worth it to buy them. I hand out the Boom Whackers to the class. Each kid gets a Boom Whacker. And then on YouTube, there is this great group called, or what it's like how they are, you subscribe to it, but it's called Musication. I'll put it on the resource list. And the Musication has these beautifully graphic songs, and the kids, and they have Christmas songs and regular pop songs, and the kids can play their Boom Whacker to the YouTube video. So now I do have a smart board, so I don't know if you have smart boards in your clubs. So that's one of the big ticket items that I'm lucky to have. But you could also do it on whatever screen you have at the club for those kinds of things. But the Boom Whacker plays a different note for the different color and size. So the kids are learning the rhythm that up on the screen. They're learning the notes, and they're making music collectively as a group. And so right now we all voted on songs, and two of my classes are doing Africa by Toto, for all you folks who like 80s music. I'm really a fan of that one. And I have a class that's going to be doing The Lion Sleeps Tonight with their Boom Whackers. And the third song is Daydream Believer from Shrek. That's not the original. So I had them vote on what song they wanted to do, let them practice all of them, and they collectively as a group voted. And now each class is going to learn how to do a different song. And then toward the end of the year, I'll be able to record that for their parents and for the teacher and all of that thing. And it's not anything that they have to put their mouth on. So I'm super excited about that. Okay, so I spent a lot of time on budget and supplies. I could talk about this all day, so sorry. So here are my favorite resources. There are a lot, but I will say that I don't want to leave my friend Jenna out. So I went to art school with a fabulous, amazing person named Jenna. She teaches art. She's like a professional art teacher, and all that stuff. And she dresses up like Bob Ross and does all these cool things. I went straight to her and said, what do I do? And that's what I suggest you to do too. So if you have a friend or somebody in the community, go to them and get some help, because they'll lead you in the right direction. She told me to go to Teachers Pay Teachers. Best website. It's free. It's free to join. There is stuff on there that you can pay for, but a lot of the lessons are free. And it has everything. And you can type in you can choose the grade and art and music. And that's where I've gotten a lot of my art and music ideas. If I don't come up with them myself, I'll say, okay, we need to do more math. I need help with, fourth grade math. And I'll type it, or it'll say, fourth grade, I'll check fourth grade, I'll check math, and then maybe check art too. And lo and behold, there are so many amazing teachers out there who are sharing their lessons, and a lot of them are for free. And then you just download any worksheets that you need or ideas. Then I coordinate that with what supplies I have and say, I can make this work. This is something I can make work. So Teachers Pay Teachers is probably going to be one of your best resources if you need like actual tangible ideas, like fractions, like with the pizza, the fractions and the artwork and all of that stuff. And then Pinterest. I'm sure everybody here uses Pinterest. I use Pinterest a lot, but just be careful, because it's easy to go down the rabbit hole and then get off track. I don't know if anybody else has done that, but I've done that. And then a half an hour later, I'm like, that is not where I wanted to be. And then I lose sight of what I'm doing. So Pinterest can be really great. And then of course, YouTube is going to be your saving grace for your music, for your rhythm, teaching music notes. There are great videos that you can do. And then you can connect, like, okay, so if you do a video that I play a lot about music notes on YouTube, it's like 3 minutes long. If you play that and then you give them some rhythm sticks and you have them practice and you have them count out the beats, you may not have to actually teach the rhythm part if you're not comfortable with that. They can see it, but then you kind of reiterate everything so that they're doing math with it. So you just have to take what you've got and then connect it. All right. And I am going to have some documents uploaded. Where is my list? I'm going to have a list of resources. I'm going to go back because I know I have more resources. I just have to go back and find them all and type them up for you. A supply list. I'll have a supply list document for you. Resources, notes from the presentation. And then I don't know if anybody would need a lesson template. You may not need a lesson template for after school, but I do a lesson template because I don't want to forget what I wanted to say to the kids. So the couple days before the lesson, I say, okay, we're going to connect art and math. We're going to talk about fractions. And this is how I want to discuss it. And it's to this grade. So I don't know if that's something I can put on there too. All right, Jessica, I think, and I have this last slide, sorry, just for fun. If anybody wants to do some window art, here's an example. If you're looking for a collaborative idea, your clubs, you could probably paint on your windows. We can't paint on the windows at school, but I did do this at the nursing home next door for my dad. And I'm like, this is painting outside once it warms up a little bit will be a great way to do art and geometry and things like that. So these are ways that you could get everybody involved and do a bigger project. You guys probably already do a lot of that stuff already. Jessica, I think that's all that I had. And then, leave some time if anybody had any questions.
Yeah, I didn't have anything planned besides your presentation. I am going to add a drop or a link in the chat for the Google Drive. It will be a folder inside the Indiana Kids Resources folder that I'm sure you guys already have. It is currently empty, but I wanted to give you the link. By the end of the week, Emily will upload her resources and such to that. But I wanted you guys to have the link today. So that is it for today, but we do have a few more minutes. So does anybody have any questions or input regarding arts or music in Indiana Kids? Or just any general comments?
This is Laura White. Has anybody done anything recently that's shareable?
Like a video or a video or
Well, something that's like most of the kids that I deal with are 3rd and 4th graders, and they're boys.
Yeah.
And I need help.
Yeah, so a good project that we just did statewide was, implementing Indiana Kids and art together. Have your youth or have the kiddos draw the career that they want to do, or have them draw what they think being a police officer may look like, or other things. And you can tie in arts even into like the career or volunteer section of Indiana Kids. I've seen it really neat to even where you can have your peers draw one another and introduce each other that way. And it's just a way for like SEL activity, social emotional, they're learning about each other, but they're drawing, and it's kind of fun. I like to do it via digital. When I watch people draw each other virtually, I laugh so hard. It's a lot of fun. But just even for the young kids, learning, like Emily said, learning their interests. I know Among Us is really popular right now, that video game. So even just having a contest where they have to draw the best character, or just understanding what would be exciting and engaging to them, having them draw a Minecraft scene, or going a little outside of arts and education. It's always fun to watch watch kids build something with Legos, so they could do it even through art. But build something tangible with Legos or what have you, and then write a story about it, or read a story and then recreate it through art or through Legos. So I think it's just, finding what interests them and then tying that in. I don't know, Christy, you guys do a lot of Indiana Kids activities, and I know the career drawings is something that you guys just did, but I don't know if anybody has any tips in helping Laura engage young boys.
Lately, we've been doing Lego challenges, and I actually did one recently that they didn't know it, but it was counting as a career session, because the challenge I gave them, because I just found like a 31-day Lego challenge, and for some of the days I'll go off of that, and other days I'll come up with my own. But one of the days I decided to do build your own time machine out of Legos, and then along with that, after they built their time machine, they had to either draw a picture or write a paragraph about where in time they would go. And if they wrote, it's like why they would go there. But if they drew a picture, they would show where in time they would go and put on there somewhere like the year, or whether like it's future. Because actually I have an example of that I had a 4th grader. He got super into it, and the Legos are out in the learning center and I'm in my office. But so he made his, and he worked for a good 45 minutes on just creating that. And I count it as scientist engineer because it's, a little bit of both. And I saw he got out all these pieces, and he redid it like probably 5 times until he finally came up with, it was like this big. And so he said that, you wouldn't get in it, you would hold it. And he told me, he's like, I know that it's small, but I've worked on this so many times and this is what I came up with. And then he drew this picture. And this took
Wow.
him 3 days because he worked so hard on it and he was so proud of this. And I'm actually putting this in the national arts competition this year. And he doesn't know I'm doing that either. Because and I mean, this is amazing. And he kept like getting down on himself, but like here even, you know, he's putting these lines and then in here he erased those because he wanted this to be a spiral elevator. And he told me, he's like, you know, I don't normally color my pictures, which not a big deal. Like, this is amazing. But I don't color it because I want people to be able to see it and then recreate it in their own way. And like, in my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, child, like, first of all, you're amazing and you don't even know it. And second, like, you aren't coloring so that other people can have a chance to do something like you did. I don't know. Like I said, I got really excited about what he did. And so this worked for, I had first graders do, or actually I had some kindergartners all the way up to 5th grade do this. They get really excited about the Lego challenges because certain days I'll have Legos out and I'm just like, you can play with them. And other days I'm like, the only way that you can play with Legos is if you do my challenge. And so many of them who normally just sit around and talk will sit down and do the Legos and do the challenges. We've done build a bicycle and a trail that it can go on. We've done the time machine. We've done, was it an island? And one of the two of the girls that worked together made, most people just, you know, made a little handheld thing and I was able to take a picture of them with it. And 2 of the girls worked for like an hour straight. And they made like this whole area that had like, there was a swimming pool, there was a library, there was a school, and like all this like da 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 da. So Lego challenges.
Where do you find Lego challenges?
I went on Pinterest and I was able to find a document that just had random Lego challenges. And like I said, some days I'll go off of the 30-day one, and some days I will just come up with my own ideas.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Wonderful.
Yeah, and you know, I've seen clubs do some neat things visiting them where you even have kiddos drawing their favorite staff, which is always fun, or drawing maybe what the club means to them and then using that as like thank you notes to board members and things like that. We try to enter, you know, intrigue arts and such into the programming. So we even like reached out to clubs a couple years ago and asked sites for just different drawings, and then we've embedded them into, if you've ever received like a thank you card or a birthday card or whatever from the Alliance, all of our mailing cards are youth drawn. So we have taken them and then just have worked with our person that does our printing and such, and he just digitalized them, and now all of our cards are actually hand drawn by kiddos. So
Wow.
just even being able to, you know, take handwritten things or hand drawn things and add it to your website or onto like, you know, donor notes or, you know, thank you cards to the board members or what have you, you know, I think it's always helpful. I can't remember the statistic, but recently I saw where you remember things that you see visually more than those things that you read. So like if you look at our Facebook group and such, we've been trying to tell our story with more visuals and less words. And I think art is a good opportunity for us all to be able to do that. I did add a quick link in the group chat here for our Facebook group. It is a Facebook group for staff and volunteers such as your guys' self, where you can add great resources or, hey, here's a bulletin board I did. Maybe Amy can share that link so everybody can vote on those bulletin boards. But maybe Emily will reach out to Kelsey and be like, hey, here's a really good, you know, pizza project. Don't forget today's the day. Here's what we're doing. I try to post different resources for Black History Month and such. A lot of times it's just me posting, but when you get on there, don't be discouraged by that. It would be helpful if people like you guys were also posting on it and sharing ideas. But I think a lot of you are doing great ideas. And just like Emily Seiler shared today, there's a lot that can be done. It's just trying to figure out what it is and not being overwhelmed by all of the what ifs.
Now, did you say that was a Facebook?
That is a Facebook group. There is a, I don't know if you guys all have it. I will find it real quick. There is a, Google Drive folder that has an abundance of Indiana Kids resources in it that we have added really over the last couple months. So I am getting that link right now and putting that in group chat. That is not tied to Facebook. That is just a Google Drive folder. But the link prior to was tied to Facebook, and that is part of a Facebook group. So there are a couple different links. The first one I put in was for the arts and education folder that Emily Seiler will update with her resources and such. By the end of the week, those will be in there. That folder is blank right now. But the folder, the other Google Drive is the folder for all of the trainings that we've been doing. And I know Christy and Amy from this call have added resources to that they use at their club for best practices that you can have access to. So with that, that is also another way to group share, because anybody can add to those resources or, you know, download from that or what have you. That is open for you guys.
Okay. And did you send us the Google Drive?
I did it just now in group chat. So if you open up group chat, you will have that link and you can open it and then save it as a desk, as like a bookmark or what have you. I will also try to do it in a follow-up email, but I just am afraid sometimes you guys aren't always on the list and getting those emails that I send out.
Okay. Because that Google Drive sounds wonderful.
Yep. Did you click on it in chat right now?
I don't even know how to find it.
I don't know what platform you're on, but there should be a chat option.
There is a chat. I see it.
And if you click on that,
here.
yeah, if you open,
Drive Google folders.
yep, if you open that up, that's going to link you to the Google Drive folder that has resources for clubs to access and add to.
All right. Oh, there they are.
So, you know, if Kelsey maybe has photos of her pizza pie or whatever, she could add something like that in there. So, or you can be like, hey, here's a good way. If you play around, there's some good tracking spreadsheets in there of how clubs track homework careers. It's not all related to arts and education. Like I said, there will be that one folder. You can see it in there now. It's just empty. That folder will be more based towards arts and education. But in general, you should find resources for Indiana kids overall in that folder.
I can't wait to go through that. I just downloaded it to my phone.
And if there's anything you guys are ever like, hey, you know, I would really like to be connected with a club that does this really well or does career or volunteer, that's what we're here for. We can totally put you in connection with clubs that are similar in size or in staff or capabilities. You just got to reach out and let us know what those needs may be. And then also, remember, if you have AmeriCorps at your site, which I'm looking at, if you have AmeriCorps members at your site, we also have funds in our budget for things such as supplies and such for AmeriCorps members. So if you're like, hey, I really would like to do this, but I don't have the dollars to do it, let me know. And that's something that we can provide you. Because as an AmeriCorps member at your site, you should have the resources and tools you need. So even if you're not the AmeriCorps member, if you have members at your site, we can definitely work that out as well.
So Jessica, one of the things I borrowed from you was the wheel of names.
Yes.
But I turned it into colors, and I also turned it into, like, you were talking about the Legos.
Mm-hmm.
For challenges, what we did was we put stuff like flowers, rocket ship, house. And what the kid had to do was come up and they would spin the wheel, and whatever they landed on, they had to create that item using the Legos.
Oh.
Or for art, that was their main color. So they had to use mostly green in their picture. So that was just another fun way to incorporate, you know, the kids love to tap on it, watch the sounds and all that. And so it was just fun, but that spinning the dang wheel made all the difference.
Perfect. I think that's great. I just put that in chat. That's not something I really thought about, but there's a willofnames.com. And I do it for a lot of our live webinar trainings and such. If you come, you'll get a prize. I didn't prepare one for today, but usually I do it by that wheel of names. So if we land on your name, you get a prize. But I could see how you could do that with different colors or drawing or story starters or things like that. So that's really neat too. And I think it's just finding new and innovative ways to engage the youth instead of them coming in and doing the same thing educationally every day. It's finding a way to engage them that is interesting to them, that meets their demands, and that's fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Does anybody else have anything they would like to add? Or
I have a quick question, actually. So we just this semester I've started ukulele club. Is
Wow.
that something that I can track for homework activities?
Yeah, so it's educational, right? So what I always say is it's not best to do all 30 homework sessions as ukulele club, right? You want that variety as well. But if they are doing, if they're learning music notes, or I don't know enough about ukulele, but if they're learning and expanding their education in some way, then I would definitely count that towards a session, because remember, education is anything educational, so they are still learning somehow. I always say, it's how you word it in the activity description box. So, I wouldn't put ukulele club every day, but if you can word what educational skill they are learning, then that is definitely acceptable and something you should be doing, because maybe that kid doesn't have homework every day, but he is showing up regularly, going to that club, putting that commitment in. That is definitely an Indiana Kids activity.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question about career sessions. So when Emily was going over like different featured artists and then like dissecting the different like elements of that with the academics, I know that they're all artists, but like using like the different mediums like painter, graphic designer, could those be different career titles? Okay.
Absolutely, because you could even go, I'm not the creative one here, but you could even do like a week-long, well, we can only do 2 career sessions a week, Jessica. You can do like a month-long career theme, if you will, where maybe the first week you're learning about graphic arts and the kiddos are designing art in graphic design, but then the second week they're using like clay and still arts, and so that's definitely like a lesson that continues to build upon itself, but it's different categories of that career or what have you, broken up. So again, I think those that succeed in Indiana Kids are those that think outside of the box and are creative and aren't just, oh, we got to do homework, we got to do this, just check the box. Do what works for your kiddos, what engages them, what's going to keep bringing them back, and doing it fun, right? Because I've said it before, it's not about what you're doing, it's about who they're doing it with. So Miss Jessica could be offering the most boring activity, but it's fun, that energy's there, like I'm gonna go there. So doing it with style, however that works for you, is completely okay and encouraged.
Yeah, and with like the graphic design, you can go into the world of careers of advertising and marketing, and and kids connect with that. I mean, we're all surrounded by commercialism every day. So we talk a lot about that in our class, that graphic design is art and that advertising has a lot of art in it too. And then you just opened up 10 more careers. So, and if you ever need anything specifically with that, with like getting into something in detail and making those connections, I'm more than happy to help. I didn't dive into specific lessons, but I'll put some on the drive, and then you can always add, if you need help with that as well, with like art and music careers and all of that stuff.
All right, Jess, I'm gonna ask a question.
Okay.
See what you think. So I know like our kids love the Legos and they'll create like what they want to be, architects and all that. They just are over the whole writing everything. So if we took a picture of them holding their rocket or holding their whatever they create, and we just, and they put on there like, this is a house, this is a rocket ship. Can we include that as the proof of their
Career
work?
So you have to remember, those career worksheets are only a guidance. That way you don't have to create your own. When we say you have to have proof of 10 career sessions, it doesn't have to be a written document. It can be a picture of whatever they've created. It can be a copy of their resume. It can be a picture, them drawing. There's how you put art in. They could have learned about firefighting or something, but they don't have to draw what they liked about it, whatever. They don't have to write what they liked about it and what have you. They could do it through drawing. So the way you collect those 10 proof of careers is totally up to you. Again, the worksheets that we say are for the career evaluation are those just as a guidance. That way you don't have to create your own proof, if you will, but it can come in pictures. Absolutely. As long as you are confident in the fact that the youth understands or has learned about the career and you're not just doing it to check the box, then I'm okay with whatever you produce.
Yeah.
And even remember, like nowadays with social emotional learning and these trying times, that can fit into almost any of the Indiana Kids components that you're doing. So even just getting a group of kids in a room together and saying, okay, like, you know, Black Lives Matters is really big today. It's all over the news. What do you know about it? Let's talk about it. That is an educational activity. Simply because it's social emotional learning and you're talking about it and you're learning things. So it doesn't always have to be, well, I have to have that pen and paper. I have to have that proof or that worksheet. It can be so much more than that. And it should be, because what do your kids need right now? And they're going to vary from Rushville to Gary or from South Bend to Evansville. So I can't tell you what is going to work best, but you have to be able to identify what your youth need and what's going to get them coming back.
For
Just
social emotional and mindfulness too, because we do the different, like, I call them learning center specials, but so for Mondays it's mindfulness Mondays. And lately, because I utilize Class Dojo, and that doesn't have to be a program that you can use, but you can still as an educator sign up for it so that you can use its resources. They have what's called big ideas. So that's one thing that I've been using, because they have videos with it and or activities. And so, like, for example, sorry, I'm pulling it up so that I can see it. Right now we're working on growth mindset with it. So like the first one, when we did mindfulness Monday 2 weeks ago, we did your brain is like a muscle. So they will sit in front of the TV and I'll cast that. So they'll watch the video on Mojo, and then after, there are typically 3 questions that go with it. So with those questions, I have some kids who don't like to think, pair, share because they're shy. So of the 3, I'll only do think, pair, share for 1, because that's what he decided he's okay with. So we compromised 2, where I ask the question and then I put 30 seconds to a minute on the timer, because I want them to think first before they respond, because otherwise I'm getting hands and and then they forget the question or answer a completely different question that makes no sense. But so like I said, I'll ask the first question, give them time to think about it, and then after the timer goes off, that's when they're allowed to raise their hand and they can answer if they want to. They do not have to answer, because again, they don't all like to. And then when it's time for their think, pair, share question, I let them decide. I'll have someone pick a number between 1 and 3, and then they tell me which one, and that's whichever number they pick, that's the one that we think, pair, share for. So then when they do their think, pair, share, they partner up, and then they each get 1 minute to give their answer to their partner, and then the other partner goes for another minute, depending on how long the question is. And then we come back together, and with the think, pair, share one, then I ask them what their partner said, not what they said, because then it's incorporating the active listening, because I'm making sure that they're actually listening to their partners and understanding what they said, as well as understanding the question that was said. And then after we're done with Mindfulness Monday, we go over reflection, and I ask them what they, if they liked it or not, and then why. And they can't just tell me, yes, they liked it, or no, they didn't like it. They have to give me a specific reason. Otherwise, because I give them points for the reflection too, and it helps me to know, then I can go back on my notes and say, this did not work, or this worked, but this is what they want to change.
That's awesome.
very interesting. Jessica,
Uh-huh.
I just wanted to know, which office are you in again?
So if you're not familiar with the Indiana Alliance yet, so the Indiana Alliance is Lana Taylor's located in Indianapolis, does most things financial. And then I'm located here in Richmond, and I do all things programmatic. So neither one of us have offices. We all work from home. So I am with the Indiana Alliance out of Richmond.
Okay, thanks. Well, it was very interesting and brings forth a lot of ideas. I'm really happy to get resources.
Yeah, and like I said, Emily will have those uploaded by the end of the week. And I think on our end in Dropbox, we have a lot of art resources as well that I will go ahead and transfer over to that folder just for the sake of ease. I will do that as soon as we get off the call today. That way they're done. Anybody else have any questions? Fantastic. I think the conversation today was really helpful. And it's always interesting to hear what others are doing and help, think of innovative ways that we can continue to implement arts and music into Indiana kids, and just in general, how can we excite the youth and get them further involved into the programming. So Emily, I think that your contribution was great, and I appreciate you, and I am looking forward to, I've already like written down ways like how can we keep bringing Emily back, because this is exciting and this is helpful. So I greatly appreciate you willing and offering to do this for us.
I'm really glad to be here. And I just want to reiterate that I'm so thankful for everybody on this call, because I know what it's like being after school with kids, and I can't stay away from them. So I love being with them during the day. And it's great that you guys are with them after school, and we just all have to work together to keep our kids safe and happy and healthy. I mean, that's the goal. So thank you guys, ladies.
Thank you.
All right, everybody stay warm today. Hopefully you can get outside and build a snowman or something fun. And know that we are in Indiana and soon it will be warm again. So enjoy your Wednesday. And if you need anything, don't be afraid to reach out.
Okay, thank you.
All right, bye.
Thank you.
Friends.
Bye-bye.